Hi, my name's Rob Scott from UC Today, bringing you the latest news and conversation from the unified communications and collaboration space. So today I'm joined by Joe Walsh from the GoTo division of LogMeIn, and we're going to be discussing how you can take advantage when you integrate GoTo Connect with Microsoft Teams. Welcome, Joe.
Thanks very much, Rob. Excited to be here today. Looking forward to our chat.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. Joe, just before we get started, how about you do a quick intro? Tell us about what you do at LogMeIn, please.
Yeah, I've been working with the product marketing team, Rob, in LogMeIn for about 2 years now, just under about 21 months, 22 months. And I work with our collab portfolio. So people will be familiar with brands like GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar, and GoTo Connect is our latest addition to that portfolio. We launched our cloud-based phone system, fully fledged UCaaS platform actually in towards the end of 2019 and into early 2020. So I've been working with LogMeIn on that challenge for the best part of 2 years. And prior to that, I've been in the telecoms industry for about 15 years. I've worked with brands like British Telecom, Vodafone, Aircom in Ireland. And I've also worked with a few other vendors that have specialized in around big data and analytics and real-time marketing, trying to make the most out of customer lifecycle messaging and elements like that. So telcos and product marketing and messaging has been something I've been doing for a considerable time now, and really enjoying the challenge at LogMeIn.
Great, thanks for joining me. So, Joe, Microsoft Teams is kind of the focus of today's session a little bit, I suppose. So, you know, it's emerged as a leading player in the marketplace, as we all know. So I was keen to hear just first of all kind of what the current state of play, you know, was out there right now. I know you've got some interesting data points to share.
Yeah.
With us. So, do you want to start there?
Well, look, there's an abundance of research in a lot of this stuff at the moment, Rob, because it's been so top of mind and so present in everybody's day-to-day work lives since COVID hit early last year. Like before COVID hit, what we saw was about 12% of people only primarily worked away from the office. You know, 88% of people primarily in the office, right? So the way we worked and the way we communicated in January, February last year was quite different to the way we're working and communicating now. Like that completely turned on its head. It went to about 88% of people working primarily at home, with only about 12% of people working primarily in the office. So people needed to find new tools and new ways of talking to each other. And we've seen a huge explosion in cloud meetings and collaboration tools. Okay, and just to give you a bit of a kind of a sense for the scale of the growth, these tools are not new. They've been around for a while. Okay, like GoToMeeting's been around for 15 years from a video conferencing standpoint. You know, Slack and Microsoft Teams from a messaging standpoint have been around for a number of years as well. But what we saw up until about the end of 2019, globally, there was about 74 million users of these tools that were using them on a regular basis. Okay, when COVID hit and IT teams were turned upside down trying to find tools literally overnight to help their workers work from anywhere, we've seen since then, and where we expect to land is 4 times growth in the market. Okay, so what took about a decade to build in terms of 74 million users should end 2021 around 272 million users. So pretty much a quadrupling of the market in the last 18 to 24 months. And it's not going to stop there, right? Because yes, the offices are going to reopen, hopefully, fingers crossed. You know, there does seem to be light at the end of the tunnel at the moment. There's a lot of optimism in the air. And I know different economies, depending on where you are in the world, are opening at different speeds. But if we look at the UK, if we look at Ireland, if we look at the United States, we're beginning to see people return to the office. But we do expect a lasting impact, right? And we do expect from the end of 2021 and into 2022 and 2023 that there'll be a significant growth in the amount of people working away from the office primarily than there was pre-pandemic, right? We think it's going to go from 12% at the end of 2019, you know, to 38% and more in 2022 and after that. So still a huge demand and a huge need for these tools. And that's why they're still going to start being used ubiquitously in most workplaces. And we expect to see by the end of 2026, it go to just over 700 million users of using these tools. So literally from the end of 2019 to the end of 2026, 10 times growth in the market. That's pretty phenomenal. That's why just brands like Microsoft Teams, Google Workspaces, Slack, Zoom, WebEx, these are all whatever I'm trying to think about this, whatever the opposite to household is in a business, right? So office hold names that everybody kind of will be familiar with. We expect to see a lot more of those in the coming years and years ahead.
Yeah, that's significant, isn't it? Wow, 4 times growth in not a very long time. So, okay, so in terms of the customer behavior out there right now, what are the top challenges and what kinds of features are organizations looking for?
Yeah, well, I think, you know, the primary need for all these tools is driven by just connectivity. People have been able to still communicate and collaborate. And that's why we see things like video conferencing being one of the primary use cases, messaging being another primary use case, and that persistent chat and group messaging and file sharing that comes into it. So these are the kind of tools that people will be using day to day at the moment. Things like screen share. These are all the kind of the basic functions and features of video conferencing and collaboration applications. But as these become embedded in workflows and work processes, we'll start seeing these tools be used a lot more in different ways, and particularly new functions and features that are coming into the tool. So things like transcripts and translations, they're fantastic for all post-meeting activity. So if you've missed a meeting, a simple record with the transcripts makes it really easy for people to follow up. You see a lot more people now using kind of asynchronous collaboration methods where instead of sending a big long email, they might just record a 5-minute video and send it on to people with a couple of slides as well to do a brief for a session. We use them a lot now. Instead of sending pre-reads in the organization, we send pre-watches, okay? And just a short 5-minute video is easy for someone to listen to, even when they're pottering around in the house in the morning before a meeting happens. You'll see tools like hand raising coming in to allow a bit more etiquette come into the meeting space. Sometimes people can get overshouted and overcrowded in large meetings online, and normally dominant characters. Same in the physical space, right? But this hand raising element as well now allows people to put a bit more order and a bit more structure on the meetings and make sure everybody gets heard. You'll see people move through a lot more of the modalities, right? So a lot of the conversation now has always been kind of desk-based, face-to-face, because primarily everybody's at home. As the offices reopen, we'll expect to see more people transition from maybe in their car using the mobile app into a meeting room where there's other people sitting down as part of the same conversation, the same conference, and joining through the meeting room platforms, or maybe back at your desk and opening up through your desktop application. So we expect to see a lot more people transition from different devices and different applications depending on the use cases that they have. So they're the kind of things we expect to see people use a lot more in the coming years. And there's a huge amount more that these tools can offer outside of that initial primary goal of connectivity, which they've done over the last year.
That's great. Thanks for explaining that. And in terms of how we, position GoTo alongside Microsoft Teams, kind of talk us through the kind of GoTo proposition a little bit. And I know we're going to focus on GoTo Connect, so it'd be good to share exactly what GoTo Connect is. But how do you kind of, aren't they competing products? How do you put them alongside each other?
Yeah, well, look, if we jump a little bit back to the top of the conversation, Rob, we talked about the growth in people using these tools. Okay, we're expecting to go to over 700 million by the end of 2026. Microsoft Teams has become one of the biggest players, and I think it needs to be a tip of the cap from us and the fellow competitors in the industry to the way they've managed to roll out their solutions over the last 12 years, and a really good, compelling commercial offering for existing Microsoft customers too. They're market leader at the moment with about 26% market share. Okay, so the dominant player in the market, and they'll continue to cement that as they strengthen their product and the portfolio. But one thing that's become evident with a lot of customers is that very few have one UC solution deployed. A lot of organizations have multiple UC solutions deployed. Okay, in fact, I think the average is about 2.6 solutions across organizations. There's a few different reasons for this. A lot of organizations are beginning to migrate and move to different tools. You have different lines of business that have different preferences for specialist tools and stuff like that. I know, for example, like the developer world loves Slack, right? They love that from a messaging and a file sharing and a collaboration standpoint. There's different tools and different capabilities, right? People coming from different backends. Microsoft and say the likes of Google are very much from the collab side of things. The likes of 8x8, RingCentral that have been like primarily telephony. And then you have the likes of ourselves and Zoom who've come more from the meeting space, right? So we've all got different strengths and different kind of feathers in our cap depending on the history and the background of our companies. With Microsoft in particular, one of the areas where they wouldn't be so strong is around phone systems, right? And that's why you'll see a lot of Microsoft customers use multiple vendors to give a complete solution to customers. And in fact, we looking at some research from the likes of Wainhouse as well. They said about 74% of IT decision makers would actually have a preference for best of breed, right? And that's meaning that if they can and if integrations work seamlessly, they'd be willing to use multiple solutions, then use one solution in its entirety and sacrifice functions and features and maybe user experience around specific modalities. And with Microsoft, that primarily is the telephony. And we expect to see about 70% of Microsoft Teams customers use some form of direct routing through different vendors that are out there to provide that calling capability in Microsoft Teams. And that's where GoTo Connect comes in, right? That's where our platform adds considerable strength and considerable advantages to Microsoft users. Okay, so from a GoTo Connect standpoint, powering that telephony in Microsoft Teams, giving the end users that one experience, that experience that houses all their messaging and all their meetings, can also house their telephony and make sure that we provide areas of our strengths that complement Microsoft's maybe areas that aren't so strong quite favorably. And for things like that, we're looking at, first of all, reliability. Okay, when it comes to telephony, right, that's the core infrastructure of an organization. If your phone systems are down, your customers can't reach you, you can't reach your customers unless you're using kind of, you have everything set up from a meeting standpoint to do it, and can cause quite a lot of heartache for a lot of IT teams, right? So reliability is something that Microsoft still need to bring themselves up to a level that is more acceptable within the industry from a telephony standpoint. And you do see the likes of ourselves and the likes of 8x8 and Zoom that come from that background with a stronger remit and a stronger track record in reliability. We come with 99.99% SLAs, right? And that's commercially backed, which is, again, better than the SLA that you're going to get with Microsoft. Microsoft's telephony system is still in its infancy. It lacks in a few features, okay? So, for example, we bring the capability to send fax through as well. We bring contact center capability through to the customers, which Microsoft don't have. And these are a few things that are missing. In a few other areas, again, you get into more details into the capabilities around call queues and auto attendance and the ability of which they can be set up and add value to an organization. Okay, Microsoft's still lacking in a number of areas there, but this is where players like GoTo Connect can really complement and provide that extra capability.
Yeah, I think it's generally accepted that the Microsoft phone system proposition is fairly limited in terms of PBX functionality.
Yeah,
is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's it. So, like, again, things like that, right? Microsoft doesn't support the ability to send a fax. Okay, so that's one thing. If you have a use case that requires, you to send faxes still today, and you'd be surprised the amount of organizations, the amount of industries that still do have that requirement. Microsoft can't deliver on that use case. Other elements, for example, with things like call queues, they would have the ability to put a call queue into an organization, but the depth of that ability and the amount of control that the supervisors or IT teams have is limited. So, for example, you can have a call queue, but you don't have the ability to put in some wait time between calls coming in. So, for example, if you're making a number of calls to customers and you want to update a CRM system, you can build in a bit of additional time to allow the sales reps that time to put those elements into the CRM system. With Microsoft, you can't. The next call comes in kind of straight away. So there's a few elements there where they're just still very much in their infancy. Another part is their administrative tools, right? In terms of how IT teams build and manage the call flows in organizations. And these can get quite complex, the bigger an organization gets, so that overall inbound company number and how you reach either marketing or finance or sales or HR or whatever department it is that you're looking for, that sequence of auto attendance and flows and making sure it lands on the right desk at the right time, or using things like ring groups and hunt groups, setting all that up for an organization is quite challenging. And with GoTo Connect, we're actually a market leader in our PBX administration tools. Okay, we give a visual dial pad editor that actually is unparalleled on the market versus the rest of the competition. And that's something we get a huge amount of feedback from our telecoms managers and IT teams that really love using that as a feature. Things like customer support as well is pretty high on our team's agendas because of the criticalness of a telephony system. And that's something, if you look at the likes of Gartner and their publications around the Magic Quadrants, they do scores higher from customer support perspective than Microsoft as well. And if you want that premium Microsoft support, you need to pay top dollars for it too. And that's not the case with the likes of GoTo. So overall, that value for money message as well, when you look at Microsoft Teams and look at the different add-ons and the different licensing and the types of minutes that you get for that and the additional add-ons if you want to make international calls, that's when you stack it all up and you look at the total cost of ownership, again, there's a lot more value for money with a lot of other providers that are out there, including GoTo Connect.
That's great. Thanks for explaining that. And I imagine there's a number of different scenarios out there right now. You've got organizations looking to move from on-premise solutions, to the cloud. You've got maybe, cloud solutions already out there, cloud to cloud, and also you've got customers in the meetings platforms and GoTo Connect platform already that may be wanting to connect onto the Microsoft or integrate with Microsoft Teams. So how straightforward do you make that? I mean, how easy is it to kind of, connect these two worlds together?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. It's pretty easy these days, Rob. We have a number of different integrations that are available with Microsoft Teams, whether it's through a plug and play that allows you to pop up our dial pad within the Microsoft Teams user interface, or whether it's a full-blown integration where you're using the Microsoft dial pad capability. As far as the end user concerned, they're only using Microsoft Teams. It's the IT teams and the telecoms teams in the background that understand that GoTo Connect is the engine behind that telephony, and they use our back-end administrative tools. They're the only people that are aware that GoTo Connect is there. Those integrations, this is one of the great things about tech, right? Things like open APIs and all that kind of stuff. Integrating these platforms together is becoming pretty seamless. So for us, it's only a couple of days. Like the process of getting deployed and integrated is seamless, and there's no time at all. There's no need for 6 or 8 weeks lead time or anything like that. For example, any GoTo Connect customers today can simply go straight to the Microsoft Store now and download our plug and play integration in this matter of a couple of minutes. That's something they can do right now. If they want that more native Microsoft Teams experience, it's just making sure that they have the necessary licensing in place, both on the GoTo Connect side and the Microsoft Teams side, because there is some implications there around having the right licenses to allow the dial pad appear within Microsoft Teams, and they just need to get that right on the back end. So that licensing part with Microsoft is probably longer than the integration with GoTo Connect and Microsoft in general.
Right. Well, that sounds good. To round today's session up, what's the best way for anyone out there looking to connect these worlds together to find out more?
Yeah, they can just log onto our website, Rob, at GoTo.com. Right, that's where they'll find access to all our products. GoTo Connect's our lead product. It's the one that people will come across first when they go onto the website. Then, of course, they'll find all our other great products there, like GoTo Meeting and GoTo Webinar and GoTo Room as well. So anybody looking to learn more, reach out to GoTo.com and reach out to us or reach out to your account manager as well.
Fantastic. So it's been great speaking to you today. Thanks so much for joining me again, Joe.
Yeah, thanks very much, Rob. It's been a pleasure.
And that's it from us. If you've enjoyed today's session, please subscribe to UC Today News and give this video a quick share on social, as it's always appreciated. And if you're a UC fan and want to be part of the conversation, you can join us on LinkedIn or Twitter or even Facebook using the UC News hashtag. So I'm Rob Scott from UC Today. Thanks for watching.